Welcome to the first televised Collingwood Rant from 2022. And to start off the season, I am going to kick off the year with the 1000th laudatory thing I've said about steel side bottom. So here it goes. What I think about steel side bottom is... Welcome to the Collingwood Rant for 2022. This is our first episode in front of the camera. Spook.
Yes.
You're glad to be back for another year of Collingwood.
No, but I'm glad to be back for another year of Collingwood.
We smashed the might of Adelaide.
They're top of the table team, aren't they?
Just a little bit off.
Oh, how far off?
Yeah, I think about 17 positions they're off.
We're second on the ladder, do you know that?
We are second on the ladder. So what did you think about that overwhelming victory against the Crows? Because I just want to point out that I'm hearing a lot of positive things. Social media is ablaze with how well we're doing. What's his name? Jenkins, who formerly played for Adelaide, said, we were a top 6 team.
Really? Did he say that?
Josh he goes, we could be a top 6 team.
How long before the effects of concussion wear off on a player?
I don't know. Apparently never. So what did you think about that win?
I enjoy any win. There's a lot that I like about what I'm seeing. There's a number of players, no doubt, we'll cover that I'm really enjoying seeing.
Who's the architect of...
I just wanted to say, though,
yeah.
The context of the win is exactly that. It's really last year's lower sides playing off. But we just happened to play extremely well, which is encouraging. But let's see what happens this week and the next couple of weeks.
All right, but let's focus on this game.
All right.
So I really watched this game and I thought, this is 2 bottom 6 teams.
It's just no boating accident.
This is 2 bottom 6 teams battling it out. Jason Dunstall and Nathan Buckley commented. They brought up the fact that there was a lot of fumbles and a lot of skill errors and all that.
Did they mention the fumbles and the skill errors?
Yeah, and Buckley went to say, at the start of this season, it's sort of common before you get touched.
He's got all the answers, hasn't he?
But then he said...
You know what he'd make?
He'd make a great coach.
He would make a great coach.
But then he said, but this is exceptional in terms of how many skill errors. I really watched it and thought, if you're taking a lot of heart out of this as in we're a top 6 team, no offense, but you're a fucking idiot. And you should not be commenting expertly on the game.
It's a bit harsh on Anthony Hudson.
There were patches of it I loved in terms of sublime play. The amount of times we rushed forward and picked out the one Adelaide guy. I mean, I understand we're wearing black and red is quite commonly confused for black. The amount of times we picked out the one Adelaide defender who was standing by himself when we went forward inside 50 was just flabbergasting.
I think it's going to take a while, though, to eradicate completely the Buckley game plan.
You
don't just jettison overnight, do you?
I would... Look, I don't understand what's happening under Buckley. I'm not going to blame Buckley. I mean, it was funny that Buckley pointed out, sometimes it's not the game plan, it's execution. So,
He's full of insight, isn't he?
Yeah. Can
he point that powerful camera of perception back at himself?
Look, to go on to the side, I thought the most interesting thing was Jason Dunstall was talking about how he finds it objectionable that players are just sliding to their knees to get head-eye contact on tackles, and he thought it was a blight on the game.
Is he talking about the Ginnivan incident?
Yeah, he was talking about Ginnivan, but he's just saying in general, and Buckley sort of defended it, and Dunstall went on, and Dunstall was very eloquent, insightful, and then Buckley's whole counter was, Joel Selwood.
I don't remember that.
Where do I go from here?
Yeah, no, that was fun.
That's the rule. Rule bad.
Yeah, good.
So you look at the start of this game, it was a little bit of a contest, and then we sort of broke away. Third quarter, we really blew them away, and that last quarter I found really disappointing because it's the one thing we talked about in the previous few seasons where we dominated the bulk of the game, and then we just sort of put the cue in the rack, and it's like, who the fuck do you think you are to be putting cues in racks? You finished second last last year.
Kane Cornes all of a sudden?
I've got another name for him. We're going to get to him. So, who are you to be putting the cue in the rack? You should be making winning habits. Credit to Steel Sidebottom, who's been great. I've always criticised him, particularly since the 218 prelim.
You have been his harshest critic.
I think he's been terrible. I've always said I think he would have been a better player if Malthouse stayed as coach. Howe's been good. In terms of everyone who was out there, there wasn't anyone I thought was, I was thinking get him out of the side. Tyler Brown, I think, in the 3 games that I've seen him play, which is including the GWS practice game, I think he's showing real signs of midfield leadership and midfield initiative. Scott Pendlebury really worries me. He looks like he's really just slowed that one step that is going to be costly.
Well, he's 748 years old.
Yeah, you know.
There's only so much more life the ring can put into him.
The one guy we're all, you know, and you got to say, this guy has embraced the club. Is Nathan Kruger. He embraced it by getting injured.
It's almost like it was scripted.
Oh,
he's going good. Everyone loved. We got the Krugs chant going. It was all the perfect scenario. Oh no, he's gone down and his shoulders popped out.
Forced him to dive. The thing I like about Kruger is he grabs the ball and he turns and it's like, I'm going to go that way. I'm going straight forward. It's not, you get a lot of the sort of key positions. They get the ball and then they dance on the spot and go, where am I going to go, where am I going to go, where am I going to go? And it's like, okay, I'll kick it sideways 10 metres. It's like, you could have probably just done that to begin with. I actually like Kruger tries to keep the game moving.
Yeah, I really like what I saw in those pre-season matches with him as well. I think he really is. I'm still not convinced that's the puzzle piece to the forward line, but it's a good stopgap solution.
The Kruger plays like a Chris Dawes type in 210 where he's not going to be a key forward. If you get the key forward, he's going to be a really good co-pilot, we're going to call it. So I think he has the potential to be a really good foil for someone else.
Yeah.
I think if we, and this applies to everyone they've tried down there, Cox, Cameron and all that, you're going to just kill them if you're playing the way we have played in the past. I mean, McRae has that chaos style, just keep moving the ball at any cost and apply pressure and all that sort of shit. But go back to the forward 50 entries, they're really terrible entries. Players shouldn't have to be struggling that much.
You need a presence, and I think this is the thing I was looking forward to seeing here, that he was going to start demanding the ball. He's going to start leading into space. He's a big, mobile forward, because that's where we're going to be playing him. It gives them options to go to, and naturally, of course, he'll go down with the shoulder injury. That actually does look like it's meant to be not that bad. I saw in the news that it popped back in again. They rated him a chance to play this week, which means we won't see him until 2032.
No. 2 small forwards, Ginnivan and McCreary.
Geez, they're looking good. Yeah, Ginnivan's a live wire and he's really creating plays. What I love about McCreary, I don't know, I was about to say Krugs. I think that chant stuck in my head. What I love about McCreary is just his attack. He's just relentless. The way he just wants to lock that ball in or do something or make something of it. And they're traits that I think you saw a little bit of in his first year. He was a lot quieter last year, but he's really just matured into that body.
To go back to last year, I mean, under Buckley, because under Robert Harvey they were trying to move the ball quicker, but under Buckley, they moved the ball so slowly, it was very easy to take forwards out of the game. So it was probably not a great developmental path for anyone.
You reckon?
Yeah, Peter Hudson would have struggled under that 4 line.
Coventry would have.
Jordan DeGoey.
Geez, he's copping some flack, isn't he? I think he's
terrible, apparently.
He's pretty good, but you look at, I saw something this week that his numbers are pretty much paralleling Petrarca's.
Yeah.
Petrarca's he's got the next 20 Brownlow medals locked up, and DeGoey's a problem child.
Yeah.
It's just like the narrative of the media is they just don't want to give him any credit for playing well at the moment. It's all about when's he going to come undone, because that's the more interesting thing to talk about.
Well, I mean, the interesting thing with DeGoey is besides the charges that he faced recently, a number of which were very trumped up and blown out by the media.
That sounds unusual.
Yeah, he hadn't actually done anything wrong for a number of years, and the things that were coming up was stuff that were done a lot earlier, but they were just being heard now. So, I think particularly that game, because he got trod on early and he sort of fell out of it. He's just trying to get back into it, but he worked his way back into the game. And I thought he was just pivotal to getting our midfield engine started.
No, he gives a lot of drive. I think he's very underrated, and I really don't understand why.
And the thing is, I'll actually go back to last week's game, because this is a player I'm going to talk about in a minute too. Is that time I was streaming out of the centre with Grundy, and Grundy had the ball, and Grundy looked like, I just want to boot ball long. And the guy
earn money.
Yeah, the guy was like, gimme, and you want players who are going to take the onus. And the guy in that case last week, he actually finally got the handball from Grundy and he turned in to kick the long goal. And you want guys who are going to say, like Henry did last week too, and he did it again this week, You need these players who say, when the pressure's on, sometimes I just need to take the initiative and, you know, I might not always kick the goal. I mean, the goal he did in the 18 grand final, which he had that shot from the boundary in the last quarter, he missed, but he took the onus on himself, where you compare it with someone like Oscar Elliott in the last quarter where he kicked that ball to the top of the square and it got touched and it went through. I don't know whether that's Hoskins Elliott or whether that was the Buckley instruction of play to percentages, but you think a player like maybe say Didak 10 years earlier, or 15 years or whatever, he would have said, you know what, I got a chance to win the game, yes, I'm not passing, I'm not doing a team thing, and that's what you want. Ollie Henry.
Yeah, it's back-to-back goal of the round. He's been nominated for.
That goal was great.
Read today, first player since Fife in 15. It's not a bad little, not a bad little bit of company he's keeping there.
And the player I was going to go to is Brodie Grundy.
Well, are we going to talk about Ollie Brown for a while?
No, Ollie Brown.
Ollie Brown, Ollie
Henry.
Henry.
Brown.
I don't know where the Brown came from. Is he related to Brown?
No.
No, he's not. He's not one of the Browns.
No,
that's probably
it's not
not
one
bad.
of
It's
the
not a bad thing. So yeah, you want to bag Grundy now? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Do you know what frustrates me the most about watching him is it's, well, you'll have 20 other examples, but the prime one that kills me is the ball is bounced up or thrown up in the air and he's up leaping for it 20 minutes before it's even on
its way. He's only played 150 games. Why would he know?
Surely you've worked out, you can look at something going up and down often enough. You can sort of work out a trajectory and when you should probably put your mitts up and go for it. What are you practicing your training? It's not timing your leap or by any stretch. And if you're going back, the amount of times he's gone up too early, he's crashed into his opponent, fell backwards almost on his ass. What's the point of the ruckman in this situation? It's not to win the tap out or get first use of the ball to your advantage. You just fall on your ass. That helps nobody.
My biggest issue, I'll just speak honestly, if I had a choice going back 6-7 years, I would have preferred they kept Witts and not Grundy. And that's because Witts is actually a ruckman. And Grundy is a better player, but Witts is a better ruckman. And it's like, I watch Melbourne games and Max Gorn drops forward, drops back, or, and he takes marks, he gets tapped. Grundy, you get to work out what you are. If you want to be just a ruck rover who's part-time ruck, then you're doing a fucking great job. I don't understand how you can still miss time leaps. Actually, I do. Sorry, that's a lie. You miss time leaps because you're so focused on your opponent and you're timing things to him. And
that's a good point. Yep, I did think that too because he's colliding with the opposition ruckman when the ball's still going up into the air. Yeah. So he's obviously focusing on him more than where the actual ball is going. Because surely you just hold back.
Yeah,
let him fucking jump.
And that's exactly it. You go back a couple of years when he was being beaten by guys like Andrew Phillips of Essendon, all these sort of journeyman ruckmen. And the biggest
Woody, I think he was beating him as well.
And the biggest problem with Grundy that I see, he has. I don't know him, so I don't know what sort of what sort of guy is, how intelligent he is, or anything like that. But in terms of football intelligence, I watch him and I think he's very, very one-dimensional. And his only other string to his bow is I'm going to start taking it out of the ruck myself and then kicking it. But his whole plan is see ball, jump, watch opponent. I never see him sort of go, okay, this guy's wrestling me. How do I play him differently so I get the benefit? Or this guy is jumping early. How do I do that differently? And the very simple thing is maybe I just don't go up and they just wait for this idiot to jump up and tap it to me and then I'll just fucking kick it. He has no plan B or C. He has no adaptability. He has no ability to innovate. He has no ability to watch what's going on and adjust and go, okay, I need to change my strategy. He just keeps doing the same fucking thing over and over. What's in about his 10th year or something now? It's like, when do you learn to play the ball and to adapt to what's happening around you? You don't do it. The best players in the league will learn and go, okay, this guy's wrestling me. I'm not so good at wrestling. I'll play him by leaping at him or whatever. Or this guy's wrestling me on my side. I'll play him on the other side. He doesn't change up. It's just the same fucking thing. And it's exhausting watching that team is evolving around him and he is staying significantly the same. When he gets it working, he's great. But the problem is, what's your plan B? What's your plan C? What's your plan D?
It's not something that I think we ever attacked over the last couple of years, but he's never had a dedicated ruck coach working with him. And I don't think we still have one this year.
No.
Maybe when we go over the soft cap and spend big on all the things that we need to be successful again, we might go out and hire one for a while.
I'll go back to 88. I remember Peter Dacos and Greg Williams were the premier midfielders in the league. And then, for people who are too young, Peter Dacos was a brilliant midfielder before he was he was a brilliant forward originally, but then he became an elite midfielder, and then he went back forward. And in '88, they were both dominating. Greg Williams, everyone knows his pedigree. And they had like a press conference because Collingwood was going to play Sydney, and so it was the best two midfielders playing against each other. And someone asked Peter Dacos, how are you escaping tag and how are you getting away from tension? And he just said, all these taggers are playing me on my right side, so I just play him on my left because he was dual-sided. So he was just inverting what they were doing to him and then getting away from it. And it's like, that's just sort of shows a football brain to go, okay, this is what they're doing to me, this is how I'm going to counter it. Rather than Grundy, like I said, when he was playing those guys like Andrew Phillips, he was just wrestling them. It's like, mate, this is not fucking working. They're just exhausting you doing it, and you're not having any effect. Change it up. Go run him from 5 metres away or something. Jump over him. Run through him once. Just fucking make him feel like, well, don't do that to me. He doesn't do any of it. Nothing changes in his game, and that is really fucking frustrating.
It is. I think frustrating is a key word. I think the problem is also, too, you tend to, when you watch the games, and this isn't, we're not going to be potting Grundy for the whole show episode, are we? It's you just, unfortunately, you just see a dollar figure run around.
Well,
and I think you're always now going to be judged by that. Yeah. It's not his fault to a certain extent that you've demanded the big contract and you've got it. However, you've got to wear that now, and you just don't see the output of somebody earning that much money, which is it's a horrible thing to say, but that's just the way it is.
I was reading about Buddy Franklin, who Luke Hodge was talking about, like when he left Hawth, and they go, and the thing you didn't know about Franklin was he was really selfless, and I think he was talking about that grand final where they beat Geelong, and Buddy came in and said, Tom Lonergan just always kills me, so let's use me as a decoy, let's play me further up ground, and then you go to roughhead and all that. So they were saying like Buddy always would come in and you'd go, well, I'm not so good here, let's play me here against this team and let someone else do the thing. With Grundy, my biggest problem is he's got so much fucking talent, but it's just you got one bow or one string to your bow, and it's like, change it up. Your second string is, again, when you decide I'm going to start taking it out of the ruck myself. Just change it up. Do something different. Thump the fucking ball. We've said for about 3 years. Thump the ball 15 metres forward or whatever.
It's something you've also got to start doing now, because what is he, 27, 28?
He's 28 this year. I think he's 29.
Yeah, so it's getting into old dog, can't be taught new tricks territory.
Yeah.
It needs to be turned around sooner rather than later.
And the other thing too I'd love for them to do with him is just, mate, you know what? Fuck his ruck training. I mean, obviously work on his strategizing, but fuck his ruck training and just go, let's just practice your overhead contested marking, because it's not so great. And it'll be, you get your hands to a lot of them, but you put them down. He's very good as an overhead leap when you can jump on someone, but in an actual pack, he's not a great contested mark. And that's what you want your ruckman to do. So with Grundy, I like him as a player. I just look at him and think there's so much talent there, and you're seeing this much of it because he just does the same thing. And the big problem too is, what was his last good season? 2019 or something?
Yeah.
So you've had 2 really average years, and part of that is because people are working him out and just doing the same thing to him, and he's not adjusting. Jack Magden, just out of curiosity.
Jeez, he's maligned, isn't he? Actually, no, there was a couple of cock-ups, but on the whole, he's very serviceable.
Yeah.
And he just plies his trade honestly, and some of that is, look, he'll get turned inside out, or he'll give away a free at the most inopportune moment. But geez, show me a backman that doesn't do that. But I don't think he's... I don't think he's as bad as he's just an easy whipping boy.
He's got Sinclairitis in terms of I remember when Ben Sinclair was there and he could have 19 good possessions, but the moment he got one bad one, it's he's fucking shit. And that's the same thing. I mean, occasionally he'll do something bad or whatever, and they'll be like, well, that's why we hate him. He's just, he's not going to probably be part of your long-term future.
He's doing his job though.
Yeah, but at the moment when you got Roughhead out, Charlie Dean out, we're going to hurry and get Will Kelly in there so we can get him out too. So while all these players are out, you think he's holding on the key role. Yep. He's doing a really good job.
Yep, I've heard Buddy's already said that Magden always kills him. He's going to be playing further up the ground next game.
I heard he's not going to show up.
No, that's it. He'll probably pull an injury.
Patrick Lipinski.
He was quieter this week, but he bobbed up with that ripper little goal. Look at, I think the problem this week was there was a puff piece written on him, and no one ever recovers from the media puff piece. But he's tracking along beautifully.
The thing I'm really interested in Lipinski is round 7 when opposition coaches are going, here's the key to their midfield. We've got to put more time into him. How he's going to cope with that, and if he's good enough to cope with that, or if he'll lose some effectiveness. So I think that'll be a really interesting thing, because last week I thought he was great. This week he was quieter, but as we go on, even Craig McRae, which I thought, well, why are you saying this to the public? He was talking about the GWS game when Lipinski went off with an ankle injury, and just said that they noticed how much they missed his run. It's like, well, don't announce that publicly. But so I'll be curious, like, as we go on and he gets more attention, how we fare as a team and as a midfield engine.
But that's going to be part of his development, no matter which way you cut it too.
But
it's how he responds to that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is how good he's going to be. Saigon we said it's good. Howe's been really good. The defensive unit's been good. The guy I was really impressed. I was impressed with a few of them. Quainer, I thought was great.
He's really come along.
Noble, who I've sort of been always agnostic on, I thought he was really good, and I thought he gave him a lot of run. I thought Nick Dacos was a bit quiet. I thought Josh.
Nick still has his he has his little flashy moments though, which is great. It's just he's the crowd gets amped behind him whenever he goes near the ball, which I think that's that whole, and that's only going to benefit his confidence as well. But I think you're going to have your little patches of non-existence, but the stuff he does is really, it's not out of the box exciting. It is just exciting, and I think you need that type of hope for where we are, and you build around that type of excitement player.
What I would have actually liked to see McRae do, and Craig, if you're watching, I can give you more tips. But what I would like to see in the last quarter, when we're 7 goals up or whatever, I would have liked if you just said, look, Nick, we're going to throw you up forward for a little bit, and just have 15, 20 minutes up there and do what you want. Let's just see how that translates. Just give you a bit more of a free rein, because obviously you played half-back. Nick Maltese used to do that a lot, where he played players coming in a defensive role to sort of give them a bit more of a defensive grounding and all that sort of stuff. So I would have minded if they sort of said, Nick, go have some freedom to do whatever you want, and let's see how you go. And if you don't do anything, that's fine. We're 7 goals up. Who cares? Looking forward, you got players like Callum Brown did really well in the reserves. Reef McInnes did well. Finlay McRae, I don't know if he's struggling, but he's. What does that midfield and that side as a whole look like? Does Cox come back? Does Cameron go out? Cameron did okay for about the 15 minutes he was on.
Yeah, Cameron gets an automatic in if Krugs doesn't come up. But if Krugs does come up, I think Cameron goes straight back out again. Although if you've got a bit of a suspect shoulder, you wouldn't want to be doing any ruck work the following week, would you? Well, that was the one concern. We sort of talked about it off screen, but it was if Cox went out. I was saying to you, I'd rather bring in Cameron and Kruger into the actual 22, not the 23, so Cameron could do the rucking. I think, I have this argument for a lot of people. I don't think Cox. I don't think Dawes was ever a world better, Chris Dawes, but I definitely believe that 2012 when Buckley made him ruck and play forward definitely did a fucking help. And I don't want to do the same thing to Kruger, although Kruger seems to be a little bit more robust. But actually, sort of thinking about it, Dawes was a pretty physical player, so I hope that they're really mindful about. Let me throw another name out at you, Jaden Stevenson. Did the club get this right? Is it starting to look like the club got this right after you bagged them all for, I never said anything. It is a staggering fall from grace. There's got to be a hell of a lot of other things going on in that head.
So the club were aware of this, and
well, we don't know. Do we know? We don't know. Do we know? I don't think we know. If you had to speculate, it probably almost would suggest that they were aware.
Well, let me put something else to you. So the club get rid of him cheaply, also, and then he plays he played some really good games for North. So it's not. He's got skill, obviously. He's got ability. The question, obviously, is on his commitment. And then in the off-season, he has a bike accident when he's drinking.
We've all been there. We've all done it.
And I say bike, not a motorbike accident.
Footy cars get too tightly around in the spokes, and before you know it, you're over the handlebars.
He's just hooning around on his bike, and he falls off. So that, to me, sort of suggests, well, maybe there's some of that stuff going on, like some of that immaturity.
Maybe Smokes got caught up in the bell.
Maybe it's. Does he look like or does it look like all the club totally knew this was coming and they offloaded him?
I still think we expected his value when we threw him out there to be a hell of a lot better than what we got. And once we made that show of the hand, we had to see it through. It's a tough one. I mean, I would have loved to have seen... I mean, you really just don't have the years of evidence now to make this statement, but I would love to see him under McRae and see how he'd be developing now. But I think in some respects, it's too late.
I think the North Melbourne coach, though, is a similar sort of teacher, cultivator, and I don't know how Nathan Buckley was, but interesting thing, I think with any player coming in is, okay, they're 18, 19 whenever they start, they're obviously going to have a bit of immaturity about it, regardless. You know, not saying everyone, but a lot of players are going to have that. And you often hear, like, Dane Swan's a really good example. At some point, the penny drops and they go, I've got to put in. And,
well, yeah.
Now, the question is, do you sometimes look at players and go, this penny's never fucking dropping?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, Jesus, he was a flat-out gun in his first year. His second year, if you take away the suspension weeks, his numbers were still very good.
Yeah, they're better than the first
You would think that, if he had played the full year, he would have been better. But then it all just turned to shit. Now, I think we did talk about this, that I don't think that being ripped out of home, being sent up
the hubs and the lockdowns
to the hub, did him any favours. However, though, you've got to look at that objectively. I think that's a couple of years ago now, and the trajectory is going downwards. What's really going on there?
Well, I mean, there's other players like it. I mean, you look at Braden Sy. Braden Sy in 2008 looked like he had the world at his feet. And
have you looked at his Instagram? I don't know what he's got at his feet these
days. I don't
days.
want to look there. You know, and James...
He's a different person.
Yeah.
Literally.
But that's the interesting thing. I mean, if I played a sport, you know, if I played Australian or AFL, I would like to think that I would have done the hooning, but I would have also realised, look, I've only got like 10 years in this.
Oh, it's a very limited opportunity you're given.
You know, and you got to admire guys like Ben Johnson and that who have limited skill, but get every fucking inch of it out of their body, and every bit of ability out of their body. So for guys like this who, you know, and the thing with Stevenson and those sort of players is you think they probably cruised at junior levels because they were so talented, and then they come up to a harder level, and for a little while it's probably nice and easy for them, and then they might think, oh fuck, I can just keep coasting. But at a certain point, you need to be going the next level, and they're not doing it. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with him at North, but geez, to be dropped after round one is extremely...
He wasn't even dropped to the VFL, wasn't he? Just completely dropped?
I don't know, I watched the North Melbourne Hawthorn game in round one, and he was diabolical. He was really bad. He didn't want to get involved. And like I know people were saying at Collingwood...
He got hit in the head with a football boot.
Yeah, like gave him the boot, like Collingwood did. But it wasn't just he didn't want to get involved. He really just looked like, seriously, he looked like he was playing hungover or something. And he had no idea, you know, he was colourblind. He had no idea who was who and all that.
He wasn't looking at a seagull up in the sky, was he?
No, Jeff Hayward came good though. On another note, Kane Cornes, Collingwood banner had a message to him. So if you looked at the Collingwood banner, which we'll put up on screen here, you're not going to see that. If you look at the lower letters, it said Kane the Fun Police. Now we have an alternate banner using the same lettering, which would have been this. Wouldn't that have been a better message?
I think it would. And you probably should put some canned laughter in here in case it's a shit joke.
No, it's not a shit joke.
Just in case.
Just in case. No.
It worked for America for about 30 years.
AFLW Collingwood side bombed out. I shouldn't say bombed out, but they bombed out in the...
I think that was inevitable. You
had a lot of injuries.
A number of injuries, crawled them in the end. It's a Collingwood tradition to take a side into finals that probably by all right shouldn't be there. And I think this year, even though they deserved a crack at it, the injuries in the end were just too crucial.
Yeah, so I mean, I look at it a little bit different in terms of the two big players they lost, to Brianna Davey, they lost immediately in round one, and Benici, who they lost a few weeks ago. And I've watched some of the AFLW games in Brisbane, Adelaide, Freo was another one. They're miles ahead.
There,
So even if you put those, they brought Sabrina Fredericks in, and she probably the last couple of games she was better, but she was really fumbly early on. She didn't solve their key forward problems.
No.
So in terms of the AFLW side, it's. Do you just want to create a Collingwood side that's going to be good enough to get there, or are you creating a side to win? And I think we're miles off the pace. I don't know about the younger talent coming up. I mean, we've had a really strong VFLW side.
It's a funny thing is because you've had the same sides up since the competition almost started. That there's like an imbalance in the competition. It's the Brisbane's and who's the other one that's always dominated? Adelaide. They just haven't showed any signs of abating. Whether they just got everything right from the get-go, where everyone else has sort of been developing a list. I mean, we've certainly been improving, but nowhere near fast enough, I think, to compete with those other sides.
Well, if you look at the... obviously, because they're continually expanding the league, so clubs are losing players. We had the really good ruckwoman, Emma King, and she went, and she was the premier ruckman in the league pretty much. And then I don't know why they got rid of that Sarah Darcy, who I think ended up at Richmond. I thought she looked really good. Whereas you look at other clubs, I don't know who they've lost and how much that's impacted.
Isn't it? I mean, a lot of this though is to do with the how little they're paid, and when you get a marquee offer from another club, you
definitely go.
You just have to go. So, and I think that was also in place to try and balance out that, but we're not really. Hopefully, maybe this year it would be this year they cast the net out and poach a few and build something.
So we're playing Geelong this Saturday night.
This is a litmus test.
So Geelong smashed Essendon in the first round. Everyone's going, oh, how good is Geelong?
I think you and I could smash Essendon.
And then Essendon lost again, and it's like, oh, maybe they weren't that great. But then Sydney
carved them up.
I think the thing you got to look at Sydney look really good at the moment. Whether it goes on, but they played Geelong. They really did carve them up after about the first 10 minutes. Geelong will be, stung into action, or whatever you're going to call it.
Yeah.
I know people say traditionally we match up well against Geelong, but that's when we played the Buckley game plan, which matched the Chris Scott game plan of just everyone chipping it around and taking four days to make decisions, playing a different sort of game plan. On the game plan, while I'm mentioning it, is it redundant to... All right, so how similar is our game plan to Richmond's game plan? It's very similar in that it's chaos ball, move forward, pressure and all that. Now, is it too similar to the Richmond game plan? If that's the case, is the Richmond game plan still relevant?
Well, I reckon this goes back to... There's two answers. I think it goes back to that whole thing about when we used to talk about the press being... we were found out in 2011, that's why we lost. I don't think it's a question of whether you get found out. As long as you're executing that better than everybody else, it's an irrelevant argument. Now, if we can... I think Fly's smart enough to probably take the best elements of what he worked with while he was there, but I reckon there's going to be some more stuff there that they're working towards. I think if you get the basics of that mimicking of the Richmond game plan right, you can then start to embellish some of the other traits that you want to make it your unique game plan. I'm happy with what I'm seeing. It's exciting to watch.
After watching the last 18 months, I don't quite blame you.
I mean, prior to round one, I was happy watching that piece of grass grow.
Well, Nathan Buckley had the Dan Andrews game plan, which was the whole ball movement
He can't back down.
I'm going for anything because I don't give a fuck anymore. The whole thing was based on the shape of Dan Andrews' head. So you moved across the ground like it was under the chin, and you got to the ears, and you tried to get around, and you couldn't because it was just too big a fucking bulb. And then you slid back down, and you went back around the chin, and then you went to the other ear, and you couldn't get around that either. So then you just went back around, and you never got anywhere. So it was all the Dan Andrews game plan that Nathan Buckley employed. I mean, I've heard him commentate. He's a genius.
I don't fully understand this game plan. Can you put up a diagram?
So Nathan Buckley, we've heard him commentate. Joel Selwood. You know what that reminds me of? Team America. Matt Dave. That's the whole defence. Joel Selwood. But the game plan, like I've said, there's a bit of a cascading wave that flows forward, and it reminds me a lot of the Matthews teams or Collingwood team in the 90 in Brisbane when he coached them. McRae would have played under him. But I do worry that, the competition's always won by sort of the trendsetters, not the imitators. So that's something that does concern me.
Yeah, which is going back to what I said. I think there'll be more to this game plan than we're seeing at the moment. I mean, as I said before, the litmus test will be this week. I'm not sure whether that's going to work against Geelong. I think their big older bodies are going to trouble us.
Well, that's the big problem.
I think we'll be. I reckon we'll be manhandled this week.
So potentially you have Kruger out. So
that's a potential enforcer off the cards there.
Yeah, and I think it'd be great if he played against his old team and all that. So I don't know where Cox is at.
Sore ankle or something, wasn't he? He didn't pull up, so I'd play him this week if Krugs doesn't come up, I think, because...
Or would you play Kruger, would you play Cox and Cameron?
No. If Krugs doesn't come up. No, I don't think you could. Could you?
No, I wouldn't, but...
No, I don't think you could. It's just too tall. I think if we're going to do anything against Geelong, we do have some running carry at the moment. We can exploit maybe a little bit of their slowness, but you still need some marking targets to hit. I think they're going to, again, I reckon they'll go pretty hard at us this week.
Yeah, well, they'll, obviously it's early in the season. They don't want to go down 1-2. They're not going to be relaxed. They're going to be stung into action. The big question with Geelong is how good are they? I mean, what's the average age? About 41 or something in that side?
That's the youngest, yeah.
Yeah, so...
He's the rookie they brought in this year.
Jeremy Cameron was injured, but
he'll be played, I believe.
Look, I have no doubt that Jeremy Cameron, I think, had his leg amputated. He'll be fit for Collingwood, then that'll be fine.
Whereas Krug, they haven't even found the arm yet.
So, but Cameron traditionally does pretty well against Collingwood.
You don't think that's going to happen again this week, do you?
He hasn't done a thing at Geelong, so it's time he did something to earn his. Yeah, so Grundy's going to be rucking against Reece Stanley, and I know it's really early in the season. It's really early in McRae's development as a coach and his imprimatur for where he's going to take Collingwood, but there's certain players that could really be challenging, and Grundy's one of them. I'd be looking at him going, mate, you're getting the big bucks. You want to get the big bucks. I'm sorry, now the expectation's on you. So you're getting the big bucks. You need to deliver the big stats, Petrarca and fucking Cripps at Carlton and all that. So there's certain players I'd be putting the onus on. I know Taylor Adams will, he'll always be competitive and all that, which is what I always love about Adams. And other guys like Pendles and that will be doing their best. What they'll deliver, we don't know. But Grundy's the one guy I think they really need to dominate in the middle to get some drive and to get that game plan. Because the one issue I think with McRae's game plan at this state, so when you got like Richmond in 17 and 19 and 20 and 18 and all that sort of shit, like they're a pretty mature team. And as a mature team, it's like, let's just play this game plan and we're all going and we're all mature bodies and bang, and we've got Dusty Martin, who's one of the best players in the league. With Collingwood, because you got such a young team in some components of that list, you get your Ginniphans and McCreary's and Henrys and all that. I think sometimes it's harder to get a game plan started. So if it's not working, it's like, well, what do we do next? And that's just part of development. So I think you need certain guys to just go, I'm going to fucking kick us into overdrive. And Grundy is one of the guys, I've criticised Sidebottom for 3 years. He's been great this year, I reckon.
So you're going to work your magic again here, eh?
Well, Grundy's the one who I think needs to go, okay, let's be I'll be the next one to... I'm the leader of this club and an experienced player. I need to lead the way and I need to spearhead that midfield, and we need to get on top of Geelong early. And I'm playing against Reece Stanley. I don't know who their other ruckman is. They've still got like Mark Blake or Rod Blake or something. I don't fucking know who Geelong's are.
No idea.
Yeah, so...
Jacko, I think. Jacko Jackson.
It's an area you can expose or exploit. So he needs to do that. And then, I've always believed football's momentum and... pieces. You get certain pieces playing well, and the others fall into play. So ruckman, if you get him doing his fucking job, the rest are going to start looking good.
I think it's very much a game of midfield dominance would win in this one, I think, as well. If you can clear the ball and get some run quickly into the forward line and score quickly, that'd be our best weapon.
Yeah.
But it's whether we're going to be able to do that. That's going to be the big question mark.
Yeah. So your tip?
Cats by 54 points.
Okay. I'm going to go for Collingwood by 18 points because I'm such a positive person.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? One of us will be right.
Well, so one of us has
I
to.
hope it's you.
I hope it's Kane Cornes. Any final thoughts?
No, other than the journey has started well, I'm enjoying it so far. Look, I don't mind them losing this week, as long as they're still showing that positive signs.
Well, let me just go to it. You said you don't mind them losing this week. We've probably talked about this, but what's your expectation for the season? So it's not finals, it's not a premiership.
Oh, it's probably improved a little bit.
You just want to see forward momentum in terms of improvement.
Yeah, I just want to see the youth develop. Ginnivan and Macquarie are great examples of that's the next steps you want to see some of the kids take. I want to see some rotation through this side of some of the ones like Poulter and stuff. He seems to be the forgotten child. Man, I thought he showed a lot of promise.
Well, I didn't see the final stats, but apparently in the first quarter he got 10 possessions. So I'm assuming that a light tower fell on him in the second quarter.
But they're the ones you want to see. I think there's some of these younger ones are going to tie. You want to probably rotate some of these through and see what they've got. Or, maybe it's an opportunity to rest some of your more seasoned bodies and see what, again, that whole moment of youthful bluster can produce. But this year is clearly a development year. It's great that we've started 0-2. We're second on the ladder. None of this is going to last. But you've got to temper your expectations, and a few more games will probably show us realistically where we're at. But which I'm good with the losses as long as we keep that incremental development going throughout the year.
Yeah,
and work on that winning game plan that's going to net us 8 flags in a row.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. The only thing I'd probably like to see a little bit more, and I appreciate it's probably not going to happen, is just throw the team around a little bit more at times. Not saying when it's a match hanging in the balance, but every now and again, if you've like against GWS where we're 7 goals down, and against Adelaide we're 7 goals up, fuck it, just go. We're not going to win this. We're not going to lose this. Let's just change it up and just see what we might get out of different dynamics, just for the future reference. I like Alistair Clarkson years ago. He was chopping and changing his team quite a bit, and it was you're getting players like Gunston and that moving down to centre half back. And it was just to see what those players had. It probably helps them educationally in terms of their development. So wouldn't mind seeing that. But yeah, for this year, I don't really expect finals. I think people who run around going, how fucking great are we, are idiots. You can call me up on that. There's a solid core there, but it's not going to take much to unravel. And that's not just in terms of injuries. It's because you have so much youth there. When it's not clicking on the day, it's going to that whole side's going to be found. And that's not talking about Collingwood specifically. That happens, with development in general.
You saw when the Saints really put the pressure on in the third quarter last week how quickly everything unravelled for us. I think we'll cop a few of those.
Yeah.
That
and even Adelaide did that to an extent too. So
I think it took was it a fire alarm to go off? That broke up momentum. I'm not happy this week to blame that.
Yeah, there's another way. There's a better way to break our momentum though. Just announce it's a grand final. Anyway, that's it from us for this week. We'll be back next week. Later.
Thanks for watching.